Testbaum. I'd like to call to order the Charter Township of Oxford. Could everybody hear me out there? Charter Township of Oxford Board of Trustees regular meeting. Today is Wednesday, February 13, 2019. The time is 6:30. Please pay respects to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please note the roll.
Noted.
Approval of the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Support.
Moved and supported. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approval of the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any questions? None? Roll call.
Trustee Nichols.
Yes.
Trustee Dare.
Yes.
Clerk Wright, yes. Supervisor Dunn.
Yes.
Treasurer Ferrari.
Yes.
Trustee Payne.
Yes.
And Trustee Curtis.
Yes.
Now on to public comment on items not on the agenda. Yeah?
I wasn't sure if you guys were aware that you were the topic today at the committee hearing in Lansing. They wanted to know why Oxford wasn't there, because the citizens were there, and so I wanted to give you a quick update as to what's going on. There is a bill being proposed. It's the same one that went through last year, and actually I have a copy if you want to.
Thank you.
House Bill 6499 was last year. Today, this year, it's 4095. Last year, the governor vetoed it. This bill is designed specifically for Oxford. It is to allow an institution in a residential area and to preempt all local zoning. And the problem is, it's not just going to affect Oxford, it's going to affect the entire state. Michigan Townships was there. I know they had asked Oxford for a position on this because many of the other townships have given a position statement.
Allen, on behalf of the Michigan Townships Association, wishing to speak in opposition of the bill. Judy, please join us.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Wow, it's so much bigger room in here, and brighter. I am representing the Michigan Townships Association, and we have submitted a position of opposition to the bill. We have concern with the local preemption on this. I have had some discussions with the department, and they've assured me that they're willing to work with me. We would rather see something with the requirement that they seek a variance from the local unit of government, because this is going to be in a local community, and we have our zoning, our planning, etc.
Okay, so that is Michigan Townships Association speaking on it. This was back in November. We don't have the video from today yet because it won't be available till tomorrow. But, hold on just a second here.
On the state, and with the expansion on the state,
This is the Duns.
With the expansion, we have a facility in Detroit, we have a facility in Holly, Michigan, and we also are just about to open our new facility in Oxford, Michigan, and they are all homes, and our license and contract allow for 10 residents. It allows for an extremely familial milieu, while have up to 10 children in the home when it's 20-acre parcels or more. We completely understand and agree with the 6 residents or less in a very densely populated neighborhood and do not seek to adjust or touch that at all. It's only for a 20-acre parcel or larger. And
So, an institutional facility bought property in Oxford knowing that the zoning didn't allow it. The first thing they did was said, we're going to do it anyways. We're going to split the property into 20s, and we're going to create legislation that's going to trump your local zoning ordinance and allow them to build a compound of these facilities in our residential neighborhood. Now, mind you, they don't want to burden a residential area that already has a lot of people with more people, which makes no sense to me. They want to go out in a rural area and put more people in there, which is really contrary to everything in our zoning ordinance. The first page of what I handed you is their application for a child care institution in Oxford. Were you aware of that? Right now, the law requires local zoning approval and I'm going to go in later when we have our second discussion about our zoning doesn't allow this. The second page is the committee meeting today. The third page is, actually the second page of the House bill, the back of the bit, is the specific legislation written right for Oxford about 20-acre parcels. So on 20-acre parcels, they're going to add more density and try and exempt local control of that. Mind you, not just one facility, their plan was to put 5, so that's 50. And one thing that we heard today, and it kind of seems to be a common theme, is that it's a group of neighbors trying to cause problems. Okay, the group of neighbors, we have an ordinance and a master plan. We all moved there, we have a vision, we've all agreed it's an important area, and we want that area preserved. I'm qualified ag. There's very few qualified ag pieces left in Oakland County. There's very few left in Oxford, and we want to preserve that. This is agricultural property here. It's agricultural zoning. So we're only asking for the ordinance to be upheld, and we're asking for our township to take a position that they don't want local control taken away from this decision. It should be up to the township where these facilities are located. They're institutional commercial facilities. They're not owner-occupied. It's a company that owns this house and pays people to be in it. So it's certainly not like it. But the theme is, it's 4 or 5 people making trouble. It's not 4 or 5 people. Every person I talk to from around the state, all of my friends are in opposition to this. This is a comment from Susan McCullough about the problem with these 4 to 5 people. This is the attitude we get when we come to the township, and my neighbors get to the township, is we're causing problems. And this isn't right. Your staff shouldn't be talking about people like this. We're only asking for the ordinance to be upheld. I have big sections of the ordinance, and I won't bore you to go through it, but I have them, and it clearly says that the agricultural district is limited to single-family homes, private homes. A commercial use and institutional use is defined in your ordinance as such, and is not residential. It says it's not residential. They pulled a building permit for a single-family home, yet they're telling you a commercial institution is going to go in there. Our zoning doesn't allow it. What is this township going to do to stop the bus? You know, by law, when they pull a building permit, they have to tell you the use. A commercial institution bringing in foster children for a pay-for-service is a commercial use. It's not a single-family use. Therefore, they violated the terms of that building permit. They're out there saying that they're going to be in March 1st because their facility in Detroit sold. They didn't tell anybody that. And they have to be out. And they're expecting to bring it here and set up their operations here. And we want the laws upheld, we want the ordinance upheld, and that's what we're asking for, is for you to understand what's going on. They've already filed for it. This township is going to have to give a statement to MDHHS that it complies with the local zoning, which it doesn't. It's not an approved land use, it's not a permitted land use, and it's not even in our listed special, land use. So we're here to let you know what's going on, and we're asking you to make sure the steps are taken to preserve what our ordinance says. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer it.
We do not talk during this portion, you know that.
Pardon?
This is comment only, and we're listening to your comment.
Okay, I just offered. All right, thank you.
Bruce?
Dr. Bruce Myers, Delano Road, Oxford Township. One of the emails I sent to Supervisor Dunn is a statement from DEQ that they would like to do a presentation. And I've offered the township to be the one to sponsor this and bring them in, because that's, in my opinion, most appropriate. If the township chooses not to have the presentation from DEQ, we will schedule it anyway, in which case I will request the use of the township facilities, if you can let me know how this works.
Could I just interrupt just real quick? I was in contact with Mr. Owens, and I agree with you that the township needs to be opened up for residents to be able to hear this stuff. I'm not going to make any more comments during this.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But he said he was going to get a hold of you,
Okay,
and so I left that in his hands. So
Good.
it was acted on.
Good. Thank you for acting on that. So today I was very surprised to hear on a state level in the committee that they're asking why the township supervisor wasn't there, or at least township representatives, because this is so important this affects every township in the state of Michigan. This basically eliminates local control. So I'm asking why we weren't represented there, especially since we're the one that is putting out this bill, basically. Not you as a township, but affecting everything in the township. Other supervisors are asking, why is our supervisor not there? Because this is most important for our township at this point. They're concerned about losing control in their own townships. I also heard a statement today that the Dunns, Maggie and, I forgot his name now, Dunn, for House of Providence, state that all the approvals are in from the township. I'm not aware that the board has really done anything. I go through the minutes, everything else, that they have approved everything that the Dunns would need for this. Do you know something I don't? Basically, I had put in a FOIA that anything that comes up regarding the House of Providence would generate a notice to me. I have not received any notices. So is there something about these approvals that I don't know about, or that even that you don't know about? Is there a misstatement? Or is there a FOIA violation? It's like, what's happening here? I'll let you address that later. Thank you.
Any other comment? Okay, moving on. Public hearing, would there be a motion? Joe, you got a motion there for, it's right over there. Is it on that piece of paper?
This is just to move to approve the resolution, not to go to the public hearing.
I'll move to open the public hearing at 6:42 PM to discuss Great Lakes Senior Living Communities purchase of Independence Village of Waterstone.
I'll support.
Okay, moved and supported. Roll call.
Trustee Dar.
Yes.
Trustee Payne.
Yes.
Trustee Curtis.
Yes.
Trustee Nichols.
Yes.
Treasurer Ferrari.
Yes.
Clerk Wright, yes. And Supervisor Dunn.
Yes. Come on up, Eric.
Good evening, Mr. Supervisor, members of the board. Thank you for having me here tonight. My name is Eric McLaughlin. I'm a partner with the law firm of Dickinson Wright. I'm a member of their municipal law and municipal finance practice group, and I represent Great Lakes Senior Living Communities. Great Lakes is a 501c3 nonprofit that is acquiring for the purpose of operating several facilities in Michigan and Ohio. They are acquiring 2 facilities in Ohio and 6 facilities here in Michigan, including the one here in Oxford, the Waterstone facility. The others are Midland, Grand Ledge, Plymouth, White Lake, and Bear Creek up near Petoskey. The one here in town is 145 units. They provide independent living services, and through this process, they are expecting to just simply transfer the ownership. They're not expecting to do any new construction. They're intending to finance the acquisition by borrowing the proceeds of tax-exempt bonds issued by the Arizona Industrial Development Authority. That's a multi-state issuing authority formed under the law of Arizona. They're going to issue the bonds, about $400 million worth of bonds, and loan the proceeds to Great Lakes. Approximately $47,300,000 are going to be allocated to the purchase of the facility here in Oxford. And then Great Lakes will be solely responsible for repaying that debt. Again, I said there's no new construction expected at this facility, just simply transfer the ownership. So why are we here then? We're here because, simply put, the tax code requires us to get local host jurisdictional approval. We've already gotten the required approval by the Arizona Industrial Development Authority. That was given on December 19th, 2018. And now each of the 6 communities in Michigan that has a facility has to approve. This is the last one. All the previous 5 have approved the issuance of the bonds. After the approval is given, well, I should back up one step. The board has jurisdiction to make that approval tonight. The notice for this meeting was published more than 14 days ago in the Oxford Leader. So after that and this public hearing, then the board can give its approval if they so choose. Approving the issuance of the bonds by the Arizona Industrial Development Authority does not in any way obligate the township to pay any part of the debt service. As I mentioned, Great Lakes is going to be solely responsible for the debt service. It simply allows Great Lakes to take advantage of a federal tax subsidy by allowing them to have the bonds issued as tax-exempt bonds instead of taxably. There's no hit to the township's debt limit, there's no security pledged by the township, and you wouldn't be pledging the township's full faith and credit. And finally, the approval does not constitute any finding of this board that the AZIDA or Great Lakes is in compliance or not in compliance with federal tax law or state law. After the purchase, the Waterstone facility will continue to be managed by the current management company, and a representative, Andrew Kilbride, is here from the current management company tonight to answer any operational questions you might have. And so with that, any questions you may have about the legal part of this process, I'm happy to answer.
We'll answer the questions after the public hearing.
Okay.
You've given a nice segue into the public hearing, so is there any public who would like to speak about this issue? If not, would there be a motion to,
I move to close the public hearing at 6:46 PM to discuss Great Lakes Senior Living Communities purchase of Independence Village of Waterstone.
been moved
Support.
and supported? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I'm sorry, did you? Please come up.
He couldn't hear you.
I'm sorry, I didn't see him, so. We'll do a do-over.
Raise my hand fast enough.
Sorry.
Larry Rosner. I live at 1830 Cobblestone Lane, Oxford, Michigan, 489-271. When I get very nervous when we continue to take and lose taxpayers' property, hundreds of acres at a time, which we collect revenue from, tax revenue, to charitable organizations which pay nothing to support all of us. We have to dig deeper into our pockets. When the gentleman previous said there was 6, well, I'll give you this sheet. There's 8 on this sheet and then 2 on the top of it, so.
When you say 8,
I'm not sure why they're not all of them that are listed, but I will venture, I think, a pretty sure thing that as we get into this, we're starting with a nonprofit organization. I think
Larry, can I interrupt you for just a second? I think we're going to have some information coming up here when this comes up that's going to make you happy.
Okay,
Okay, I promise.
okay.
So there will be a time there you can ask your questions, but I think you're going to be happy. Let's move on to the second reading of the marijuana establishments ordinance. Is there any comment? There'd be a motion?
Just a quick comment, Mr. Supervisor.
Yes.
Since the first reading, there has been no changes from the board brought forward, at least to put into the board packet.
Okay.
Curtis, can we put in Mrs. Keynes's comments in as well?
Well, I looked at her comments, and she made reference to section 3 prohibits all marijuana establishments within the boundaries of the township, and she wanted it inserted as commercial and residential. But in my opinion, within the boundaries would encompass both commercial and residential, regardless of what the use was. That's my thinking, but
Well, you can just put it in there.
You
Her
want-
comments. Just put her comments in
no, she wants it in the ordinance.
there. Oh. It's the board's pleasure.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
since our first reading, I did do some exploratory work to find out what impact it would have on the community, what impact it's had on other communities. And so I would be very much in favor of passing this ordinance.
With her comments? Joe?
With Marion's comments, I understood what she was saying. By saying commercial and residential, you leave out the other districts as well. You leave out agricultural. I mean, I understand what she's saying, but I like Curtis's comment where it's all encompassing. I don't want somebody to read that and say, you just can't have it in commercial and residential. Everything else is fair game. I think the way we have it's fine.
Township-wide?
Correct. I move to adopt ordinance 132, adding section 30-9, marijuana establishments ordinance to the Oxford Township Code of Ordinances as presented.
Support.
Moved and supported. Do a roll call.
Clerk Wright, yes. Trustee Payne.
No.
Trustee Curtis.
No.
Treasurer Ferrari.
Yes.
Trustee Nichols.
Yes.
Trustee Dur.
Yes.
And Supervisor Dunn.
Yes. Fire Department, you got anything? Employee handbook update? Kurt?
Yes, board members, I brought this back because the situation I have within my department is for elections, I'm not able to actually comply with what is proposed in the handbook, so I've drafted some language that would assist me in making sure that the election can be ran with the existing staff that I have, as well as employing some family members. And on the screen, the first one is employment of relatives, and you can see the language in red indicating that no person shall be hired or placed in a position where direct or indirect supervision of a close relative will exist, with the exception of a close relative employed as a temporary election worker. So it's a limited amount of employment for a finite time. Probably from an election standpoint, there's times of doing some administrative work, and also right during the days of the election leading up to that. The other change that I proposed is as far as the compensatory time. Right now, it's where the employee can earn up to 10 hours within a 90-day period or being used up. So for elections, we are now mandated to be open 8 hours over the weekend, whether Saturday or Sunday, and then Monday, we usually have probably anywhere between a 12 to 15-hour day to prep the election, and then on election day, it's usually an 18-hour day. So I'm just asking the board to consider the changes to include, with the exception of full-time employees, deputies, and non-exempt employees, assisting the township clerk with any required election duties, which would give the leeway to allow these employees the chance to work the election and comply.
And Chris, I'd apply to other employees too, right? If you need to pull other employees for other
Exactly,
departments.
because it's full-time employees. That's how it was stated.
Unfortunately, I've got a person that has experience at that may be of assistance, so that allow you to utilize her if you guys came to an agreement, correct?
Absolutely. Well, that would be something of the authority of the department head too, to allow that to happen.
No problem.
With those suggestions, would there be a motion?
I move to approve the Oxford Township Employee Handbook, include amendments to the following sections: employment of relatives and overtime compensatory time.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any questions? Roll call.
Trustee Dur.
Yes.
Treasurer Ferrari.
Yes.
Trustee Curtis.
Yes.
Trustee Nichols.
Yes.
Clerk Wright, yes. Trustee Payne.
Yes.
And Supervisor Dunn.
Yes. On to the Great Lakes Senior Living. Joe, do you want to start with this?
A couple things. I don't know, if audience may not know, we have an agreement with Great Lakes that even though they're going to go to a 501c3, we're not going to lose any tax revenue. We have an agreement saying that everything will remain the same. So that even if they were to apply for the status, they'll end up getting a pilot which keeps the same tax rate as they currently have now. So if they choose to go 501c3, a pilot kicks in, which keeps the tax rate current. We lose absolutely nothing. We've negotiated that. That's in writing, as long as the board approves it. Ms. McLaughlin, question for you. Any rehabbing? Our Independence Village has been there a while. When the new company comes on, are they going to do any rehabbing? Because I'm sure some of these units need some work.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Andrew Kilbride from CSIG. We're the owner of Senior Village Management. We're the tenant. So our employees care for the residents that are there. So one of the benefits of the borrowing cost being lower for a 501c3 is the CapEx that we can allocate that goes back into the communities. So that's one piece of the benefit, and there will be in excess, I think it's a 35% increase in the CapEx moving forward should everything operate the same at the same occupancy. So there will be capital set
Will be money
aside. We went
available
through
for that?
extensive studies over the last 2.5 years on what's been spent since the community has been built, and then what we'll be able to spend over and above a different landlord. The landlord we have now is a publicly traded REIT. They've been very good partners, and we think that this new owner will also be a good partner. But yes, the CapEx will go up with this.
Because over the years, since this has been built, a lot of money's not been pumped into that building. It's doing fine,
Yeah,
but I don't want to tie the new company's hands where they say, well, we can't put another money into it for another 30 years.
right.
I don't want one of those.
Right. No, it's the opposite. Great Lakes, part of their mission is senior living, which is one of the reasons we're happy that they're going to be the new landlord. And so in previous projects, we looked at the capital expenditures that they've been able to allocate, and it's above what sort of a landlord would be able to do that was a taxable a profitable private company. And our plans, since we've managed the community, have been extensive in capital improvements. And today, the community's in good shape, but there does need to be improvements moving forward, and we'll have that ability to do that.
I've seen it happen in a lot of other communities. Look at a lot of your old senior care facilities in inner city Detroit. They started off great, but as money became less and less, money's not been put into the buildings. I don't want that to happen in Independence Village.
Right.
If we approve the bonds, I want the new company come in there with eyes wide open saying, hey, work needs to be done, we're going to do it.
Yeah, and actually, when they toured the communities a couple of months ago, we laid out, that was their first question. With that excess capital, what would we do to allocate that? And so we have a plan to do that. So it's in place. Yep.
So we might have new ownership, but are you still going to be there
We are.
running the facility?
We are. We'll remain the tenant and the operator of the communities.
And our residents there will receive the same care.
Absolutely, 100%.
Pete, you had your hand up.
Just a question, George, to your statement you made about them, excuse me, agreeing to current millages and taxes and so on and so forth. What about any future millages that come along that aren't in place right now and/or renewals that may be at a higher rate or anything like that?
It says right there in the agreement that right now they pay the ad valorem roll. If they end up playing the 501c3 card, it becomes a pilot, and they pay the exact taxes they would now for both summer and winter.
Okay.
Joe's pretty stingy with the money, so he's got a lot of the bases covered.
Yeah, this is pretty well thought out.
Come on, you got a do-over?
I do. Just keeping along with that to try to let everybody know what's going on here. Let me try to use technology here to bring it up. Okay. In 2018, Oxford Fire Department ran a total of 257 calls to Independence Village. Of those, 188 were medicals, and of those, not even counting those, was 63 lift assists, where it's a matter of us going out there and lifting somebody, putting them back in bed. Currently, their policy is that they do not lift anybody. If they fall on the floor, they will sit there and hold their hand, call the fire department, and then where to get there, assess them, whatever, put them back in bed and doing whatever. There's no cost recovery on doing lift assists. The insurance companies, Medicare, Medicaid, Blue Cross, do not pay for lift assists either. So, I mean, that is a time of our staff going out there, sometimes 2, 3, 4, depending on how many people are going out there, taking a time away from running other calls, emergent calls in the community, but we're out there doing that at no recovery cost or whatever. The question in the community and the question my department members have and everything is if I'm paying, because I've been there, done that with my own father that lived there, when I'm paying under the understanding that they are being taken care of, and that's what I'm paying you $2,000 or $3,000 a month to take care of them, he goes down, I expect somebody to pick him up or do something. I don't quite sure if he's supposed to wait till the fire department gets there to do it. So my concern, and our employees' concerns, and other members of the community now are starting to be concerned, is we're out there doing that at no cost, no reimbursement to us, whatever. So there is a concern on that part.
So what's the answer?
That other communities, such as Rochester Hills, has passed an ordinance that if they're going out there to do a lift assist, then there's a charge that goes directly to the facility, and they're getting billed for lift assist to come out there.
Would that be something you guys be willing to consider?
I think you hit on it there not a caregiver or licensed at one of the communities, but it is something that we grapple with too, because we are there. Our employees are loving and caring for these people, and those are difficult situations when that happens, and our hands are kind of tied. If we were to try and assist and injure that person, the after effects of that there's bad outcomes that happen after that. So we do try and stay with them, as you mentioned, and until help arrives. And so we'd be happy to entertain, any suggestions on solutions.
When you say entertain, does that mean you'd be willing to do it?
I don't know what doing it means, and again, I'm not.
I mean, entertaining something is kind of wide open.
We'll see what we come back with.
Yeah, I definitely, if you put some solution that we can, legally, that we can do, yeah, we're willing to listen to that, and if it makes sense, sure, love to do. We're always looking for ways to care for folks better. So.
Yes, are we?
Yeah, no, we've been a member of the community for a long time, and we want to continue to pay our taxes and to love and care for the people that are here.
Okay.
Pete, can you get us a sample of an ordinance from another community that handles this?
Yes.
Now, would it apply to Independence Village or everybody? Like, do you do the same thing at Hope Senior?
Hope Senior?
It would have to be across the board to be consistent.
But do they call you Hope Senior when somebody falls?
No, because Hope Senior's not managed by anybody. They're the actual, it's like an apartment. They're living there on their own. There is no care.
So the one this would apply to would be Independence Village.
Or any other?
Facility currently that we have like that.
What about those, because I know we have some group homes where there's other people caring for them, but they don't call you guys for assistance?
I think it has to do with the licensing with the state.
Okay.
We do have a new one coming into the village that we're going to have to be looking at, and probably down at the new one at Grace Senior Living down at South End.
Okay, get us a sample copy of an ordinance and we can take a look at it in March.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
What is the occupancy rate right now of Independence Village?
I believe it's 98.
So pretty much 100%.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. The other thing is, I talked with Eric today about providing some funds for reimbursement.
He's got it.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, that's fine. That's
Yep.
fine. That's part of our motion.
Yes.
Board members, I do have a revised motion that I passed out addressing that. Also, Mr. Chairman, in the resolution that's in the board packet, it indicates that there were no comments. If you're going to include Mr. Rosner's comment as part of the public hearing, we need to amend the resolution.
I think you don't have to because he wasn't part of the public hearing. He was a comment after the public hearing.
Do you mind being omitted, Larry, your comment? Because I did interrupt you because I knew where you were going and I knew the answer would be satisfactory for you.
Well, just for the record, certainly they're an asset to our community. I think they do a great job. They're an asset to our community. So this is not something that's to me taken negatively. But in the future, they also, presently, I think they're the ninth largest taxpayer in this township.
Yep.
And I think Mr. Ferrari has done, certainly looked at that, and it makes...
I'll give up money to
We have to protect ourselves to make certain that if we start something which is nonprofit on bonds, is all the avenues looked at to make sure that 6 months from now an attorney won't come in and say, well, based on you did this and that, they don't have to pay their taxes anymore.
Our rules contingent
We got
on that
that with
resolution.
another situation that's presently going on, and there's a lot of, in this township, there's a lot of nonprofit organizations that don't pay taxes, and we all think we're paying too much taxes, and that's kind of normal, but we don't like to have something as large as this go away. So I think that needs to be reviewed by the board and make absolutely sure that there's not something in there that 6 months, 9 months, a year from now, suddenly a good attorney comes in and says, well, they're nonprofit, they don't have to pay taxes. Thank you very much.
Eric, do you have the same type of agreement with the other communities? I mean, Is Gray Lake's going to continue paying taxes to everybody or just us?
Yeah, well, we provided Oxford Township with a letter dated January 11th, stating that we wouldn't be claiming a tax exemption while Great Lakes or an affiliate owns the facility. And we provided the same letter to all the other communities. Oxford is the only one that we actually have a two-party agreement to continue paying taxes as currently.
Okay, but everybody else, you're going to pay taxes for the other ones too as well.
Right, that's the intention.
Okay.
The biggest hit would have been the schools. They would have lost $125,000.
I do like having the agreement, kind of tightens everything up. I move to approve the resolution approving the issuance by the Arizona Industrial Development Authority of not to exceed 400 million senior living revenue bonds for the purchase of Independence Village of Waterstone, located in Oxford, Michigan by Great Lakes Senior Living Communities LLC, and to approve the agreement regarding township property tax revenues between Great Lakes Senior Living Communities LLC and the Charter Township of Oxford as presented. Authorize Supervisor William Dunn and Clerk Curtis W. Wright to sign the agreement on behalf of the Charter Township of Oxford. These approvals are contingent on all expenses that shall be paid by Great Lakes Senior Living Communities for all necessary work performed by the Charter Township of Oxford in reference to the resolution and agreement as they pertain to Great Lakes Senior Living Communities LLC.
Support. Moved and supported. That'd be Elgin Nichols. Roll call.
Trustee Curtis.
Yes.
Trustee Payne.
Yes.
Treasurer Ferrari.
Yes.
Supervisor Dunn.
Yes.
Clerk Wright, yes. Trustee Dur.
Yes.
And Trustee Nichols.
Yes.
Oxford Area Cable Communication Lease Agreement. Wait, we're going to take a 5-minute recess. We're going to sign your document and have somebody
Otherwise, it curses.
do the notarizing. What's that? I don't have black.
It's going to be
So we're taking a 5-minute break.
recorded needs black, right, Joe?
Yep, is that the original? You need the original, Bill. Bill signed the original.
That is.
It has Steve's signature.
Yeah, we got that.
Okay, perfect.
We got that.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
This.
Do I have another one to sign?
I think you have one, then Curtis will make you a copy.
No, these two, that's ours to keep. We just need to sign these, notarize them, and Eric takes
Is
one.
there two of them there?
Are there two originals?
One here.
Then we file ours to count.
So why did it just? Why did it alert you?
Going notarized?
Kelly, you need my license?
There was some motion.
Wow. I know exactly what
Right, Kelly, I did sign it.
Oh, there's better apps.
I did sign it.
There's better apps than that.
Oh, yeah, find my iPhone or whatever.
She was at the Olive Garden.
You'll find it.
Ooh, good for her.
Now she's on Rapid Drive.
Wow, I don't think I like that.
Must be a good boy, though, doesn't it?
Yeah. I wish she could do that to you, too.
Actually, it reminds me of an old bird dog I used to have.
Lives in Roseville.
Oh.
So, I mean,
Is Diana from that area?
yeah, so the guy shoveled her horse in Roseville. So I can let you think of that. Thanks for showing us. You did a great job. There's two guys shoveling snow. She's 80, she's at the house.
Center does not take
Somebody comes up to us like a pizza guy that she didn't order pizza before she opens the door. McDonald's. I'll answer the door for you. I didn't order no pizza. Get out of my porch. Oh, sorry. Kids get on his pushes or something.
Absolutely.
She doesn't hear it. She's on the TV all day.
I thought that was pretty good that I could turn my heat up and down from being away from home with the nest. You know?
Yeah. There's some.
Oh, it's just amazing, isn't it?
Oh, 3-year-old granddaughter last night, I taught her how to play Woody, his game. And I'm gonna tell you what, after about 3 or 4 games.
Is there anything else?
You want the bright white bill or the darker white?
Yeah, the internet seems to be slow today.
Careful now.
Okay, this is one of the games that you started. It's like a puzzle piece you put together.
It's gotta be politically clear.
Roll.
It's gonna be in trouble.
No. I don't know. See, she's into the game. I was not told about this, but she got that done.
Get your balance.
Is she staying with you?
No, she just came over last night because she wanted to.
Oh, okay.
Jordan, mind if I hand this to you? For liquidation?
Mine.
Pretty big one, it's a pretty big one.
You're all
400 mils?
Sleep over at grandma's house. I want you to sleep over. So Sunday, she's and then I babysat.
Oh, really? They've got nice phones there.
Yeah, they do. Get them from there and
No, it
Did not.
my daughter sent me some from the family like the weekends.
voted to not have a commercial. Oh, yeah. No, I wanted right now. I don't know if that's staying in the world. Yeah. If somebody read, so that night, have it in their house, you know what, let them go somewhere. They don't want, why would you do that? That's our bill. What are you gonna do with the extra? Yeah.
They can't stop that part.
You're gonna sell it. 5 minutes.
What'd you get?
Pay for all legal fees.
We're back in session. On to Oxford Area Cable Communication Commission lease agreement. I would probably, unless there's questions, like to put this on next month's agenda. There are a couple of questions. I know Curtis had a couple of questions about the lease agreement. At the Cable Commission meeting last night, they decided to hold off for a month. And I believe, Ron, your commission decided to hold off too.
I'll make a motion. to
Hold on,
table.
hold on.
The Parks and Rec reviewed it last night.
Who are you?
Oh, Ron Davis, Parks and Rec Director.
Thank
Sorry. They would like the amount of the total cost the Cable Commission spent to construct the building. As you remember, that was my standpoint to do this, is that the Parks and Rec or the Township should be able to buy that building back for its original cost, whether it's 5 years, 10 years, or 20 years, in fairness to the taxpayers. So they would like the total cost put in that lease, what they spent to build the facility, and then they would approve it.
I don't have a problem with that, Ron. As a matter of fact, I directed Dave from the Cable Commission to count up every penny that was spent and present us with a number.
Okay.
So I don't have any problem putting that in there.
Yeah, they're in, so I mean, everything's,
And Curtis had a question with that 350,000 too.
we should be under budget.
Lock you in.
I'd like to make a motion to table the Oxford Area Cable Commission, Communications Commission lease agreement to the Wednesday, March 13th, 2019 Township Board meeting.
Second?
Moved and seconded, yes.
So if we have issues, who do we go to get these resolved?
Why don't you come to me?
Okay.
If you have any questions, come to me and I will pass it along to the Cable Commission, who will pass it on to the attorney. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Clean cars, safety path in lieu of.
Board members, you have an agreement in front of you. The Clean Cars, the old Burger King building, like to do the cash in lieu of. And as you know, they're looking at reconstructing M24. Probably put a pathway there anyway. So this is probably the best route for us to go. Make a motion.
Any questions? Go ahead.
Make a motion that the Charter Township of Oxford Board of Trustees authorize Supervisor William Dunn to sign the Safety Path Cash in lieu of agreement, the amount of $8,295 between the Charter Township of Oxford and Clean Cars as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions? Let's do a roll call.
Supervisor Dunn.
Yes.
Treasurer Ferrari.
Yes.
Clerk Wright, yes. Trustee Payne.
Yes.
Trustee Dur.
Yes.
Trustee Nichols.
Yes.
And Trustee Curtis.
Yes.
Okay, moving on. Plan Commission Zoning Board of Appeals review fees. Board, this is just a cleanup of what we have on the books. And that's all it is. No numbers that were changed. It just made it more clear for everybody.
I'll make a motion to accept the Planning Commission Zoning Board of Appeals review fees, proposed amendments presented, attached to the minutes effective January 1st, 2019.
Support.
Moved and supported. Yes.
What are these review fees for? That's what we're trying to find out. What review fees?
Therefore, for consultants and administrative fees,
And this is regarding what types of applications?
almost every one.
What about a zoning text amendment?
That is clear that it's cost money. That why, as a village resident, I'm going to use myself, why would I pay for somebody else's text amendment?
Well, I'm
Unless it-
asking what fee was set for that?
I believe that was ordinance, let me look it up. That came under special land use, private road, rezoning, including.
Not a
map-
rezoning, this is a text amendment. There's two totally different things.
Rezoning,
Three.
including map/text amendment.
That's two separate things in your zoning ordinance in terms of what they are. Rezoning is totally different than a text amendment. Totally different. It requires totally different submissions.
Then we will take note and take a look at that.
Okay, because that's what we've been saying. We've been asking for this text amendment. This board promised to make these text amendments for us, and they haven't been made, and I can wait and talk about it in the public comments, after. I can discuss it now, but you have some uses that are in your definitions and in your special land uses in terms of the requirements, but they're not listed as a special use or an allowed use in any district. You have uses that aren't even listed in your ordinance that are customary uses, so, there's some problems with that, and I'll be happy to talk about that later,
Okay.
but this board promised to make these text amendments for the residents. They decided.
And when did they promise this?
This was back in the joint meeting, back in, I believe it was February or March of last year. And we have problems with our ordinance where there's uses listed in all the zoning districts, but we were particularly concerned with the agricultural and the large open space rural areas, that there's uses like compost facilities and things like that that really don't belong there at all.
I think you're going to get agreement from the planning commission on almost all of your comments.
Right, but it's been now 3 years since we've been asking, and we're no farther ahead today than we were 3 years ago or back in March. Nothing has been done. So this group of residents said, okay, we're going to drive this, we'll ask to do it because the township's been failing us every step of the way. And so we go to submit, and we have arbitrary fees made up. The zoning ordinance is very clear about what needs to be submitted, and it says that the fee for a text amendment has to be set by the township board, specifically for a text amendment. And every time we went, and these people were with me, the fee would be different. There would be a different form. We'd have more jumps, more hoops to jump through. First $1,500, then as it looked like we were serious, then it was $3,000, then it was $6,000, then it was $6,800 for a text amendment. You've done how many text amendments this year alone, or last year? Sorry, last year. You did solar panels, you did all kinds of text amendments. They're a very simple process.
You're asking this board to comment on what the planning commission does.
No, I'm asking you to still address the same problem. You still haven't set a fee for.
I'll make note of it, and we will
for a
handle
text
it.
amendment, and you need to take into consideration that text amendments can be very simple, or they can be complex, and the fee structure can't be a one-size-fits-all. If it's a simple.
I believe a lot of these fees, that if the money is not spent, you get it back.
I understand, but why should your citizens have to come up with $6,800 to correct a typo in your zoning ordinance?
If that was the case, we would just take that into
Well, how do you know?
consideration.
We tried to submit it.
I
and we
told
weren't
you we will
allowed.
take this under advisement and get right back with you very soon, within a week.
Okay, well, we've submitted the application. You know that we've submitted the application, so we're expecting a public hearing on that. But I'm saying it would be nice to know going in, and we understand that there's consultant fees and things like that, but asking that much money up front isn't productive to anybody. Your citizens are responding, to you and working with you as a community to try and fix things for the betterment of everybody, and we want to work together, and to be punitive the way you've been is disappointing.
Is there any,
Mr. Chairman,
yes,
I will withdraw my support until this is reviewed.
okay, that's fine. Everybody else want to have it come back next month?
I don't think these fees seem fine, just changing the fees.
Well, but,
That's a different matter.
but why would you okay it and then come back next week and have to, or next month and have to change it? I don't have a problem waiting a month. It's been this way, so there's no real hurry on doing this tonight. I can take their comments under advisement and see if we can get something worked out. I mean, I can't do it myself. I don't know the zoning ordinance. I'm not a zoning person. I'm not an attorney. I would rather have someone who knows about this stuff, other than me.
To me, it's a logical approach.
Yeah, I think so. I don't have a problem reviewing it.
I'll withdraw my motion and make a different motion.
Make a different one.
I'll make a motion to table the Planning Commission Zoning Board of Appeals review fees until the March 13th, 2019 meeting. Along with that, have a resolution to the text amendment request by the group of residents in the north area, so we'll know exactly what they'll need to be charged, if anything.
Support.
Moved and supported. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Gravel Inspection Committee appointments. Is there any question on that?
Just a comment.
Yes.
The motion reads the current township supervisor. Would that expire at the end of 2020?
Yes. Because I wouldn't be the current if I wasn't here.
I understand that, but it says therefore no term limitation.
It's the position, not the person.
I realize that. My thinking is if you take out the word current, you would then allow whoever is the township supervisor, planning commission chair, and township board liaison to the planning commission to continue without having to come back in 2020 for another motion.
Is that your wish?
Well, it's not my wish, but it's just.
Is that your motion?
I wish. I make a motion to accept the township supervisor's recommendation that the township supervisor, planning commission chair, township board liaison to the planning commission sit on the gravel committee. Appointment is by established position title, not by name, therefore there'll be no term limitation.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Jack Curtis. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Water main easement acquisitions, Water and Sewer Committee. Jack, you're the chairman of the Water Sewer. You have anything?
Yes, the first issue is, that we're going to talk about tonight is Supervisor Dunn and Township Engineer Jim Sharp have been going to the residents, businesses along the M24 corridor, south of Oakdale to Drainer Road, and the other one is the Seventh-day Adventist located on Manitou Lane. We're, as you're well aware of, in the M24 corridor rebuild, we're going to be installing the water main to loop the system on the west side of 24. In order to get the easements from the people, the Water and Sewer Committee recommended to offer one REU tap for the easement rights for installing this water main. And we had landowners ask us for one, and we wanted to do it fair, so we felt one REU per lot at no connection fee from Oxford Township. In order to get all those easements, we have to have something to offer.
We also have one that's not part of that.
Yeah, that's the Manitou Lane.
The Manitou
that I
Lane.
spoke to.
Okay.
I move to approve to provide one residential equivalent unit per lot at no connection fee charge from Oxford Township to each property owner's compensation for easement acquisition on the west side of M24 from south of Oakdale to Drainer Road, and for the Seventh-day Adventist Church located on Manitou Lane for the placement of water main. All of these easement acquisitions are to be recorded with the Oakland County Register of Deeds, and a copy of each one is to be placed in the applicable permanent building department file.
Support.
Moved and supported by Mr. Elgin Nichols. Roll call?
Trustee Nichols.
Yes.
Trustee Dar.
Yes.
Treasurer Ferrari.
Yes.
Trustee Payne.
Yes.
Clerk Wright, yes. Supervisor Dunn.
Yes.
And Trustee Curtis.
Yes.
Items removed, none there. Public comment? Yes. Bruce?
Dr. Bruce Myers, Oxford Township, Michigan. I touched on this before, but I was hearing the representatives of House of Providence, which is a business, and it's run by Jason and Maggie Dunn. And they were speaking in front of a congressional committee in Lansing today. And I may not be able to quote it exact, but the tape will be out tomorrow that we can quote it. Basically, they said that all the approvals were okayed by the township. There's even implication that they had all the permits to move in. Now, I'm not sure how that could work. I thought they were still looking for a certificate of occupancy. But how could they make a statement that they have all the approvals from the township? I'm not sure if you can answer at this point, but to me, that just doesn't sound right. So there's a misstatement or a lack of information someplace. I'd like to
Misstatement?
think that they're misstating as opposed to the board holding information.
I would have to check with the building department, but right now, I'm not commenting. I'm not going to comment, but I think misstatement.
Okay. And then also, I still have my FOIA in that anything that comes out regarding the business known as House of Providence, that I be notified. I haven't received anything. And like I said earlier, when I review the videos of your meetings, I don't see anything discussed. So, there's something that's not sitting right. Thank you.
I don't know what it means by that. Yes, sir. Gentlemen, then person in the back.
I'm short speech. Paul Warfield in Oxford. You had just mentioned to Bruce, Dr. Myers, that you would have to check with your building department. Could you check and then get back to us on that?
I sure can.
And when can you notify us?
Maybe tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
Maybe tomorrow.
Notify who? We want to be notified? Send it.
It's no problem. About whether could you be specific on what you would like for tomorrow? I'm sorry to bring you back up, but whether there's permits issued or what the status of the permits is? Okay. I can't answer for what other people say.
Exactly. But they are stating this in front of a congressional committee today.
I see a lot of stuff said in front of congressional committees that are lies. You just take Washington, for example.
That's true. But anyway, they're running a business out of a residential area, so that's one piece of paper I'd like to see how that got approved even. That's just not fitting in the area.
We will look at it.
Just to be clear, you will talk with the building department and then get back to us. Come on.
Yes.
Thank you.
Unless I fall over dead.
I wanted to add just a bit to that. Like I said before, this all kind of ties together. Everything ties together. When we first saw this use coming in, we looked at our ordinance, we went through it, and we realized there's some defects in your ordinance that are pretty serious. And so they're not allowing or addressing certain uses. I have the sections of your ordinance here. You have the section of your ordinance for your definitions, and you have these things called foster care facilities state licensed. That's great, right? Because there's foster care facilities state licensed. There's two types of foster care facilities state licensed. There's adult and there's child. Well, when you go through yours, the only part of the child foster care facility that you have addressed in your ordinance are private group homes, meaning a private establishment. When, if you were to open your home and have foster children and want a group home of having up to 6 in your home, you could do that. And that is addressed in the ordinance. But there's another type of foster home, which is an institution. It's called a CCI, or Child Caring Institution. You don't have that addressed in your ordinance, but that is a type of foster care facility. And so you don't even have it addressed. So the provision in our ordinance says that if you don't have a use addressed, when you're trying to go through this, you have to go to the definition that most closely matches it. So when we went through our ag zoning, we saw, well, what's an allowed use? There is no foster type facilities allowed in ag whatsoever. The first time that they'd be allowed was when you get to the residential zonings, your R zonings, not ag. This property is zoned ag. So nowhere on the ag does it even allow any of these type of institutions. So this property that owner here is wanting to bring this institution on a property where it's not an allowed use and it's not a listed special use. Your ordinance forbids it. You can't do it. You have to go to the zoning district that allows that, and the closest zoning district that allow that would be your residential zoning district, not in your ag district. So you've got a problem with the ordinance you need to clean up. As it reads now, it's not allowed. It would be nice if you cleaned it up, actually called it out, and were more clear on the areas that you really intended these to go. But these are institutions, they're commercial facilities, they're not run by the owner, they're run by a company, and so that's an important definition. When you're out in residential areas, people want neighbors, they don't want institutions. You want to know the guy next door is going to be there, he owns his house, he puts up his flowers, he paints it, it makes it look nice because he cares. He's not just a worker who's paid to be there. And so there's a big difference, and that's why these type of facilities are really regulated in residential zones. And that ties to this whole zoning Trump thing that's trying to go on with this legislation. They're trying to take the power away from the township to make these decisions, which just isn't right. So that part I wanted to bring up, that's a problem. So that permit that was pulled for the House of Providence property is a single-family house, not a commercial zoning permit. It's not an institutional zoning permit. It's not a non-residential. It's a private family. But that's not a family moving in. It's a commercial enterprise. So there's a problem. You know, you have the application, you have the people's own words. So you need to put a stop work order on that. This has to be stopped. If it's not going to be a family moving into that house, you can't do it. You can't allow it. And so that we're asking you to uphold the ordinance. You wouldn't allow any other type of use to go in that was inappropriate in any other zoning district. We're asking for that same protection. And they did clearly say today that Oxford Township is fully behind us. It's fully behind our institution going in this property. Not just one, but multiple. That's what they said. And the committee just shook their head and said, I don't understand. They asked Judy Allen from the Townships Association, is this true? And she's like, I've reached out to Oxford. We've tried to communicate with them, and we're not getting any answers. So we really need to put everyone in the same room and get the facts out here and straighten it out, because they're out there telling the public that they're going to be on operation on March 1st on a facility that's a contaminated site. So there's some big issues here that need to be addressed.
Good evening. Jim Eunice, Gardner Road, Oxford. I just want to emphasize what Callie said at the meeting that we were at today in Lansing. And I'm just going to say it plain and simple, and that'll be it. HOP told them a lot of things that was not correct. And finally, there was about 3 or 4 different people in that committee that finally said, you can't do that. And it was just one of those things that Callie's talking about right there. You got all your permits? How did you get them? Oh, we got them all. Jason Dunn. Okay. And then the other guy asked, did you go to the township and put this in front of the board as you're describing it? And Jason, he went around everything he could, and finally this guy asked the third time the same question. He said, no. Jason Dunn said, no. So to listen to what they say and what you people have okayed for permits and whatever, it doesn't add up. So just what Callie said, when you listen to them, they tried to tell the whole committee what they wanted the committee to hear. So there's a big problem, these people. And the lead, we all know about that. And during their presentation today, not one thing came up about the lead with them other than the DEQ has okayed it. They don't define it. When I got up there and talked, I talked about averaging of lead on each parcel. Parcel 1 and Parcel 3 have been completely rejected by the DEQ. And we know it. We were there at the DEQ. But today, everything's fine. And when they tell when I brought up about averaging lead, and I'm sure all you folks know what averaging means. Okay, they go plot by plot. They have more than 20-acre parcels, and there's 4 of them. They live on one in the main house that's been there forever. That is completely rejected by the DEQ. They shouldn't be living there. Number 3 is adjacent to number 1, and that is completely rejected. 1 and 3 have been told to the Dunns by the DEQ, you need to remediate those, you can't live on them. They're still there, but I don't know what's going to happen with that. The other 2, the one that they've built the house on, and they're about ready, they think, to move in, they got all the permits. They got that by averaging. That means that they moved the lot line on line number 2 and pushed that piece of it from lot 2 onto lot 1, which is already by the DEQ, told them you got to do something with it. That's how they got lot 2 to get a permit to come to you folks to get a building permit for the house. They got it by moving the lot line and also averaging. When they took the one side of lot 2 off and moved it onto lot 1, that average that they had taken samples out of the ground, it allowed them to get a building permit by averaging. Now they got lot 4, and that was okayed, and that was by averaging. And they only took a few samples here and there. And believe me, the DEQ doesn't know exactly where they took all them from. So when we were down there at the DEQ, we explained all this to them. That's why they want to have the meeting, Bill.
So you're going to have
So that everyone understands, number 1, how they got a permit on lot 2, where they have the house built now, about ready to move in, and lot 4, which they haven't started yet. They got it by averaging. They can't get enough out of line 1, out of lot 1 where they live today in the older home. They can't average enough on lot 1 and lot 3 by doing what they did on 2 and 4, by taking a couple of hot spots out and then averaging based on their samples. So now the DEQ is getting into it. Because of Flint, because of Detroit with bottled water in their schools, the message is finally coming through. And you know, every time I come here, I complain about the lead and how it goes and what happens. There's a lot of things that go on there that nobody knows about. But we see the trucks going in and out. We see the bulldozers there and whatever. And also the septic system, and I know you folks are not into that. That belongs to the county. for perks. A lot of questions there, and it's all done. So all I'm saying is, this meeting that's going to happen here, hopefully, very soon with the DEQ is going to give everybody an overview of what goes on there with that 118 acres. So I guess I've said enough, but if you folks would have been at that meeting today, you would have seen how things go. A lot of misinterpretation to the committee, and finally, like I said, one senator just said, okay, tell me, like this, and finally the guy nailed him down and said, I want to know. So anyway, you know we've been at this for now 1.5 to 2 years, and it probably won't go away for quite a long time until they either 100% remediate the property according to the DEQ. When we were down there, the guy that probably talked to you, Owens, we talked to him at length and told him that if they were going to remediate those lots, because from the way we see it, there should be no lead on that property, even if it meets the averaging, because averaging doesn't clean it. It just takes a couple of hot spots out. And the state law at this time allows averaging. However, the President of the United States just signed a new bill on 12/19/18 about lead and children's exposure, which basically says none. So it's coming to the point here that they're going to have to remediate, and they're probably going to have to get down to 100%. And we told Mr. Owens at the DEQ, if you're going to have them remediate, it's got to be someone that's registered, insured, and they're going to have 100% DEQ representative there every day, and nothing gets moved until that person gets there. Because I know you think I'm wacko, but I'm going to tell you something. If you've seen the trucks going in and out of there and the dumpsters that move after dark and in the morning, there's a fresh dumpster. That's been going on now for a 1.5 years on the house where they live, because that house is on record with having asbestos in the basement. And they were told you can't live there until you do something with asbestos. Nobody knows where it went. We don't even know if it's all cleaned up. We can't go there naturally. But all I'm telling you is there's a lot of skeletons. Thank you.
Any other? Moving on, Board of Trustee comments. We'll start with Elgin.
All right. I would like to thank Supervisor Dunn for all the work that he did for the move for OCTV over the new facility, for organizing and transporting the equipment, providing, along with Lieutenant Peterson and 2 deputies, some prison trustees to pitch in and help. It's quite a project, and Bill handled the truck and did a lot of work.
Don't forget Ron.
Yep, Ron too. I can't
Supplied the
forget Ron.
trucks.
Yep. Well, did he make you fill it up with gas?
Not yet.
Okay. Also, I wanted to mention the DDA M24 Task Force. That's ongoing. They have a marketing committee put together. Now, actually, the chairman of the DDA is here. If you'd like to give a short report, I would invite him to do that, if it's okay with you, Bill.
It's up to the chief.
Okay.
Greetings, board members. As the DDA board chairman for the Village of Oxford. We met with DOT last week, spent 6.5, almost 7 hours down there going over everything, every single page of the 700, 800 page drawings that they had. Looking at everything from right-of-ways to curb cuts to pavement. One of the topics of discussion still is the pavement through downtown Oxford, because everything is getting tore out from Harriet Street all the way down to Drainer Road. And the concern is right now they're proposing is to put the high-density compacted asphalt back in instead of concrete. And our concern that we voiced to them was when you're going through the village with the old historic buildings, with that much heavy compaction going on as far as cracking basements, and most of those are all fieldstone basements that are there. So we brought, again, that to their attention, to please go in there to make sure that they're going to do videotaping beforehand. And now they've also sent that back to Lansing to say that they need to look at it on Lansing side of it as far as what kind of surface that they're going to be using in that part of it. They had plenty of work, even the area down in Orion where the Paint Creek goes underneath M24 down, they're going to have to do some extra bridge work that they weren't planning on because the approaches to it are settling and cracking, so they're going to have to do some work down there. They did talk about the detour portion of it. The northbound traffic is going to be rerouted at Drainer Road to Oxford Lakes Drive to Industrial Drive to Glassby Street up to Ray Road and over to 24. All northbound traffic for the entire time will do that. All southbound traffic will be continue on M24 coming south. The concern again, Supervisor Dunn brought up the issue that road already is in bad shape and crumbling, that to turn around and dump another 30,000 cars a day on that road won't hold up. So they are going back out to look at it. Their engineer agreed that the road's in bad shape, that they were going to need to do some work. And then the other engineer did come back from AECom and said that there is money in their budget to completely mill and resurface the entire length of it at the end of the project. They will make sure that gets done. So for everybody to keep a track that will be resurfaced.
It's from Drainer, it's up Gillespie, all the way to Ray Road.
Ray Road and then Ray Road to
M24. They're going to grind it down and resurface it.
Yep, all the way up the hill. So it is moving forward. They've got, most of it has to be done by June. 3/4 of design and everything has to be in by that part of it. The intent is to have everything done. They still plan on going out to bid in letting the bids November, December, with construction starting first thing in the spring, March 2020, going all the way through till November 2020 and having completion at that time. So moving forward.
I would also like to thank Chief Schultz because he put in countless hours working on projects for the M24 task force. And one final comment again with Ron Davis. His people are fantastic over there. He rolled up their sleeves, they pitched in, they did all kinds of things to assist us to make sure that the wires were run and so forth required for the studio. Very good job. Thank you. That's it.
You get to follow that, Patty. Curtis?
I'm set for the night, thank you.
Jack?
I have one. Back in April 11th, 2018, this board approved a motion that funds received from prepayment of water connection fees should be used or shall be used to extend the Oxford Township water system to provide water service to the properties along East Drainer Corridor. We have entered into, well, we haven't yet, we've got the checks from a developer, and we are going to enter into an agreement with them that we are going to extend the water line to their properties with prepaid water taps. The design is starting, and Engineer Sharp is going to start working on surveying that water, and then with the 2020 water main, we'll probably force a loop for that eastern water. So we do have the checks from the developer, and we are moving forward with the design as approved.
Patty?
Nothing. Margie.
Margie?
Nothing.
I had a couple things. The issue with the legislature coming through with Representative Riley presenting that, I had no idea what was happening.
I had no idea.
Supervisor Dunn didn't have any idea.
None.
What we need to do at our end, maybe have the supervisor's office write a letter to Representative Riley's office and Senator Rosemary Bear's office. If it comes in front of committee, at least let us know. And the board members, yourself, staff can choose to attend or not attend. If you don't know about it, you can't attend. Also, too, with legislation, what we're talking about with them coming in front of the House, they can do that. Years ago, we'd had local ordinance here saying we don't want an airport in an agricultural zone. The owner of that airport went to the legislature, had the law changed. There's an airport in an agricultural zone. That can happen. It's their right. Because townships are creatures of the state. We can have as many local ordinances as we want. If they go to the state and the state says, sorry, township, we disagree with you. They overrule us because we're creatures of the state. Text amendments, Callie is right. We had a joint meeting with the ZBA and the Planning Commission probably about a year ago. Maybe, I remember, I think it was in the summertime, that these were going to be addressed. I think we got to finally get those in front of the Planning Commission to address them, either to say yay or nay. And, I mean, either we agree or we don't agree. I mean, we just can't keep putting that off. And also the contamination issue, I understand where that's coming from. To me, it's premature. We have to wait for Jason Dunn and his group to come back with a opinion from their people saying, we agree, we don't agree. Then I'd have no problem having a meeting. Right now, you're going to be doing nothing until you get a report from their engineer or their company saying, I agree or I disagree. And then that's up to the board and the DQ to look at that, see if there's any merit. That's where that stands. Finally, on a happy note, we got an award from Fish that they wanted to thank us for all the block grant monies we've given them over the years. I've had it sit in my office for a little bit. I figured I'd bring it to the board meeting and let you guys know. Those are my comments.
And I guess I have a couple of comments. I did not hear about the meeting, or I would have probably been there. As far as this board giving their blessing, has anybody been in contact with the state? Anybody on this board?
No.
I've been in contact with them once. I was asked my opinion, and we didn't have a township board meeting, so I had to make it as blasé as could be, and I put in there that we'll have in the past, and we will in the future follow whatever the state law is. That was the only communication I've had with the state. As far as the Dunns, I've met Mr. Dunn once, and that was 2 or 3 years ago. I have never had any comment with him, any texts with him, any whatever. No contact whatsoever. I wouldn't know his wife if she walked through that door. As far as what the township did, when I say the township, the planning commission, we have rulings from our township attorney that that facility can go in any district in this township. That comes from the state. So we had to allow it. And I can get you the information. So that they had to allow it. Then when they had to go through the lot split, they had to give the lot splits. And when it came to the road, they approved the road with a caveat that no dirt shall be moved until the DEQ writes off on it. As far as all this contamination, nobody on this board knows about lead contamination. We don't know jack about it. So we have to rely on the state DEQ. I'd be more than happy to work with the group there to make sure that everything's done properly, but it's out of our hands. It went right to the DEQ. So if any information you guys want, I'd be more than happy to provide it. And tomorrow I'll get the answers as far as what Mr. Dunn said at the meeting. I have no idea where he got that. I don't know if it's true or false.
Can I speak to some of the stuff you just said?
No. I'll stop. I'll talk to you afterward if you'd like. Because it's comment, and I have to keep it like that, or else we're going to have agenda items on top of agenda items. That's all I got to say.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Oh, and by the way, if I'm doing over,
Oh, sure.
I'll do it over loudly. I believe the Ordinance Review Subcommittee has submitted something to the Planning Commission, and I believe it's going to be on their next meeting. Is that true, Mr. Knoll? Okay, so it's coming. It is coming up. What's that? I'm sorry? I thought it had to do with all the zoning.
We submitted a petition that's supposed to be scheduled for public hearing.
Well, we'll double. Oh, okay. I was assumed it had to do with agricultural. I thought it had to do with agricultural.
Good night.